Hello and welcome to InFocus Recouched with Kent and Dora.
Or Dora and Kent.
Whatever.
Basically, the concept is that we've had so much fun making the Record in Focus program over the last several years that we want to give you the chance to enjoy it all over again.
Or at least the highlights.
It's all highlights.
Well, yeah. We've had some really fascinating and inspiring people on InFocus. This week, for example, we'll see the interview we did with fashion photographer Heath Bennett.
Ooh, sounds good.
Yeah, living legend Dr. James Wright will be explaining the research around dementia. But first up, we'll hear from scientist Tim Standish on that thorny issue of creation.
And evolution.
Oh, yeah. Now, Tim, you work in California at Loma Linda University with the Geoscience Research Institute.
Yes.
Now, that sounds very impressive and everything, but what exactly does it mean?
Well, this is an institute that was set up by the Seventh-day Adventist Church specifically to study issues that arise where there's some tension between what current science is claiming and what the Bible seems to be saying.
Okay, specifically in the issue, between the issues of evolution and creation, or does it go broader than that?
That would be one area, and obviously it's a very big one. Because we're interested in science, it's staffed by scientists and not by theologians. And obviously the whole creation evolution thing is something that's on a lot of people's minds, both Christians and more secular people. And so what the Adventist Church decided to do was actually invest some money and resources in making sure that we're not discounting science unnecessarily and that the positions that we hold are reasonable. Obviously, as Christians, we have the Bible as our standard of truth. But at the same time, we respect science. We want to know what science can tell us about the creation, and we want to reap the benefits that science can yield in society and for individuals.
Now, Tim, some of our audience at the minute may be rolling their eyes going, oh my goodness, it's a creationist, you know, they're probably surprised you only have one head, you know what I mean? Because even amongst Christians, the evolution is widely accepted in a lot of Christian denominations. So I think on behalf of our audience, I need to ask you some hard questions, you know.
Go for it.
Starting off with, a scientific institute that is sponsored by a church that believes in literal creation, does that make it difficult for the scientists within it to have an even-handed examination of these issues, or are you essentially an advocacy organisation for a particular view when it comes down to it?
You know, this is one of the really interesting things to me. Obviously, this is a question I asked myself before I went to work there. Wow, you know, am I just going to be a hired gun and sort of like a scientist working for a cigarette company or something like that? And the surprising thing for me, or maybe it shouldn't have been so surprising, is that no, there's actually been no pressure that I've ever felt. Obviously, they carefully hire people who share who are Christians, who share what I would consider to be fairly mainstream Christian beliefs. That doesn't mean that we agree on every detail of every possible thing out there, but we certainly embrace Christianity. We're happy Christians and we're happy scientists, and we're active in the scientific community. We do research, we publish it in science journals, we go to science meetings and so on.
Anything in particular you've been researching recently that might be of interest?
Well, there are a number of things. Not too long ago, I went to one of the genome conferences and presented a paper, for example, looking at two different nematodes' genomes that I'd been studying.
They're worms, aren't they?
Yes, the ones that I study are little tiny worms. They're absolutely harmless, but nematodes, hookworms, for example, are a kind of nematode worm. Dogs get heartworm. They're another kind of nematode. They're ubiquitous.
Yep.
And
so these are one of your specialties, one of the loves of your life, the nematode
that's right,
worm.
They're beautiful little things, very worm-like. So that's the sort of work that I do. My colleagues, there's a geologist and a physicist and a paleontologist, and our boss is a biogeographer. Everybody is active in one way or another in doing actual research. In fact, not too long ago, one of my colleagues actually published what turned out to be the cover article in the journal Geology.
Oh, right, okay.
So we're pretty active.
Now, when we were sort of getting ready for this interview, Tim, we were emailing backwards and forwards, and you mentioned some fascinating discoveries that I really hadn't heard that much about before, and that's digging up dinosaur remains and finding within those DNA that is possibly still viable, soft tissue even, I believe.
Well, not necessarily viable DNA, but what I was referring to is some work by a scientist called Mary Schweitzer, and she's done some fantastic work. To be honest with you, when I was first told about what she was doing, I was very skeptical that she was actually getting what she claimed to be getting. What she did was she took dinosaur bone and basically put it in a solution that dissolved away the minerals that are in there. You can do the same thing with a chicken's bone. If you put a chicken bone into vinegar, after a while all of the hard material will dissolve away and you have a rubbery thing remaining. That's basically what she did. The rubbery stuff is primarily protein. And she published that, I believe it was in 2005, in the journal Science.
It's a fairly big, well-respected journal.
It's a very big journal, yes. If I could get something into Science, I'd be a very happy man. And naturally, this was received with some degree of amazement and skepticism by others, not just myself.
Because basically dinosaur bones are believed to be so many million years old that there's no way any...
we're talking about more than 65 million years old, according to the conventional dating of things. And most people would agree that proteins simply do not last that kind of time.
But nevertheless, there they were.
But there they are.
Yes.
So as a consequence of that, you have this tension between the conventional radiometric dating of these things and the biological evidence that you look at with proteins.
Wow. So let's say one of our viewers is, as I think probably a lot of Christians are, caught in this, not really sure what I believe about all this stuff. Is there a sort of a layperson's resource, or where could someone go to get an even-handed, scientific but clearly understandable view of the evolution and creation debate?
The great thing is that there are some marvelous resources that are out there right now. One that was actually published recently by an Australian editor. I think it's good because I have a chapter in it.
That's
so at least that chapter is absolute brilliance.
That's right.
Yes,
no vested interest there
in the beginning by Brian Ball.
Yes.
And this is a nice book. It gives a kind of introduction to things, and if people are interested in it, that would be probably a reasonable place to start.
It's sort of more from a theological point of view, isn't it?
A little bit more theological. My chapter is more scientific.
A little more scientific. Okay.
Yes.
We've got to finish up, but there's this. You had a chapter in this as well.
Understanding Creation. It's also a compilation of chapters by different scientists, primarily a few theologians. Obviously, you've got to get the science and the theology and the philosophy right. So it's a good introduction to things.
So Adventist book centres
should have them.
Amazon
should have both.
Google it. Yep. Hey, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks
Dr.
so much
Tim
for having me.
Standish.
It's been a joy being here.
Wow, that was really great, Kent. But do you know what I really liked about this interview?
What was that?
Tim Standish was actually really relaxed and comfortable. I didn't get the sense that he was being defensive or angry.
Which is so often the case, you know, dealing with that topic or with any hot topic, really. I reckon there's probably, you know, something in that for all of us to learn, you know, when it comes to, you know, those sort of hot button issues.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hey, stay with us. We'll take a short break now. Back in a sec.
We live our lives running around, rarely stopping to ask ourselves where we're going and what our final destination is. In the end, our lives become little more than routine. Step beyond and discover a path that offers comfort, love and hope. Visit hopeoffer.com/step beyond or call 1300 300 389 for your free copy today.
one of the original InFocus cast is, of course, Dr. James Wright.
Hello, everybody.
In this segment with Danielle Sinnott, he explains some of the challenges of dementia.
Let's check it out.
Hello, Doc.
Hi, Danielle. Nice being with you and nice being with all my friends out there, wherever you happen to be. We talk about crazy people today.
Crazy people today?
Yes, we say that in a very serious way because 200,000 Australians suffer from cognitive mental decline.
As
in other
they
words,
get older.
dementia. They have actually lost it, and this is what happens. The sad news is that as we wind on, more people are living longer right throughout the Western world and right throughout the world in general. 1 in 5 over 85 are going to suffer from dementia, whether you call it Alzheimer's or whatever you call it, the same thing. Now, that's the sad news. That's the horrible news, a reality of life.
Can I just ask a question in that? The fact that we are living longer,
Yes.
is the onset delaying for that decline?
The answer is no. The onset is roughly the same. A lot of folk with Alzheimer's, it starts in their late 60s. The other sorts of dementia tend to start in the 80s, 85 plus, and then gradually, rapidly increases. And 50% of people in nursing homes already do have dementia. Now, the question is, of course, what do we do about it? Unfortunately, there's no real good treatment. We work on all sorts of things. We'll eventually have the answer, probably. But in the meantime, a little bit of news. The Australian Prescriber, which comes out from Canberra to doctors every 2 months, tells them the latest and what to do. It talks about complementary medicine, and it specifically talks about ginkgo biloba.
Because that's
leaf.
supposed to be well known.
Absolutely,
for that.
well known. And in Germany, which is the heartland of complementary medicine, it is used, billions of dollars every year are spent on ginkgo biloba, because over in Germany, all medicine is subsidised by the government, and truckloads of people over there take it.
Yeah.
Now, does it help? Well, the
Brahmi's
answer is-
another one, isn't it?
Pardon?
Brahmi.
Brahmi, that's another one, yes, and vitamin E has been used, aspirin's been used, all sorts of things have been used. Unfortunately, take it if you want to. If you think it makes you feel better, take it by all means, but according to the very latest bit of information from Canberra, says it is not going to do much good. Might as well take placebo. So in general, try and keep as healthy as you possibly can throughout life with a simple lifestyle measure we've talked about for the last 50 years in my case. This helps in a general sort of way. You're not going to stop it, but you can stop the predisposition to a certain extent. Sensible eating. I'm a vegetarian, have it all my life.
Yep.
Exercise, water, sleep.
Wow.
Pretty easy, costs nothing.
Now, it does. Good to have a good lifestyle. And, Doc, I believe you also have a website.
Do I have a website? For the past 12 years we've had a website, docwright.com.au. Enter your symptom, press enter, and up 4 or 5 or 6 topics, 80-word segments on that particular topic come up, or you might like the 200-word one. You just push the buttons. There it is, 24 hours a day. Love to be with you any old time, whenever you like.
He truly is a living legend, isn't he, Dora?
Yes, he is. And still going strong.
Yeah.
He's busy managing a charitable aged care facility in Queensland and keeps his website up to date.
Oh, wow. He's a great guy. Hey, we'll take a short break now, but we'll be back in just a moment with an interview with a fashion photographer.
Oh, can't wait.
Father, I can't connect the dots through the little that I understand. What words can I say to reach you? How can I know that you are there, listening, hearing, caring? My words are broken, weak, and powerless. But I know your power is limitless. What can I say?
Planning your future can be a daunting task. What you want to do, who you want to be, and the road ahead can often be unpredictable. No one really knows what the future holds. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Now, the online version of this next interview is titled Beauty Magazines Are Lying to You.
I think we all know that, but they're still fun.
Well, yes and no. I'd be interested to hear what you think, Dora, once you've taken a look at this interview that we did with photographers Heath and Jackie Bennett. You guys have been involved in some pretty high-profile stuff, haven't you? I was looking on your website before, and you've shot Top Gear, Australian Fashion Week. You've been involved in Grand Designs in the UK. There was a list like this. I can't remember them all.
Well, we've been very fortunate to be involved with some recognisable names. Yeah, it's been a good ride over the last 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been married for just a couple of years?
2 years from January 5. Hopefully I got that right.
Yeah.
And just a little over 3 years since we met. So.
Now, what actually got me interested in wanting to have you guys in the studio is that I heard that you had gone to a high school and you chatted with a group of, was it year 10 students, young women?
10 or 11, I think.
And you talked to them about fashion photography because you have been involved in Australian Fashion Week a few times. You've worked a lot with like catwalk models and all that sort of stuff. And obviously that's a very glamorous world, you know, for a lot of people, particularly for a 15, 16-year-old young girl. What did you have to say to these young women about that industry and about your experiences?
The main reason why I went to talk to the girls in the high school there was to tell them about Photoshop and how that shows us an alternate reality. It's not real. And it's very easy, especially with the technology we have today, to change these things. So there is, I think, a dark side to any kind of modelling because this comes with that, and all this Photoshop work comes with that. And it's something that I think everyone recognises that we're holding up a standard which isn't the norm, and it's something that people struggle and they diet and they exercise like crazy and they watch shows like The Biggest Loser that show it even in a more extreme way. You see this television show which condenses a week down and just makes them look like they're running like crazy and not eating, and this is putting intense pressure on girls. Often they are too young to diet in cases like this. And so we do have this diet pressure on these girls and this pressure to look a particular way.
Jackie, when you were young growing up, you and your friends and some young women that you meet, you know, these days, do you find that they are feeling a lot of pressure to look a certain way?
I think especially girls going through their teenage years feel an unbelievable amount of pressure. Your body's changing, you're going through a lot of changes. You're just, you know, coming into who you want to be, and that's a time in your life when you're really interested in the magazines and in fashion, and you're there's a lot of pressure on girls, and it's amazing to me how many girls aren't aware of what they're looking at, what they're actually looking at. And so I think it's...
Yeah, and that's why we've got Heath here, because he is the expert to tell us what we're looking at. Now, earlier, Jackie, you kindly let us take a photo of you that's here on the screen, and you're going to demonstrate to us, Heath, just a little bit about when you talk about Photoshop and you talk about altering, you know, photos. You can show us just quickly what the sort of thing you're talking about.
Sure.
So take us through it.
It was really enjoyable showing the girls in the high school this, because they let out audible sighs. Like, they were like, wow, like I didn't know it was this. So hopefully we can communicate a bit of that here.
Here we go.
So
there's
I'm going to
Jackie.
go through steps slowly. So under the eyes there.
Oh yeah, look at that.
I'll just go one more time.
Lines just
before,
disappeared.
After.
Before, after.
And then we'll go to, I've smoothed out the chin. So we have exaggerated the effect for television, so hopefully it comes through well.
Yep.
And we go through, that's the whole face there.
Yep.
And now we've cleaned up the smile lines on that step. And
look at that.
We've cleaned up the skin tone there, which is partially due to the lighting.
So it looks like she's just applied a very thick, soft layer of foundation. So which has the effect of making the eyes just pop out. And yeah, okay.
Definitely. Well, now just to get the full effect, we'll go to before and after.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you can see a big difference there. What I would like to show is just how easy it is to get rid of one blemish. So I'll grab this tool there, and I'll just hover over this beauty spot. One click, and it'll go.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's that easy.
It's vanished.
Yeah, so it's very easy. There was two things that really aroused the interest of the girls in particular.
Yeah.
One was that tool for blemishes.
Yeah.
Because they just thought, man, like I wish I could have that
for
constantly,
real?
24/7. And the other was the liquify brush. And now wherever I drag this, I can move skin, hair.
You can change the shape.
I can change the shape of her face. So just to give you a really obvious change, I can drag in her chin. So there, obviously, it looks overdone.
Yep.
So let's say I want to do it more subtly. I could just bring it in a little bit, bring that in a little bit.
Yep.
So this is more how it's used.
Yep.
Also, we can like make the eyes a little wider apart. Like I'm doing this very quickly, obviously.
Yep.
But yeah, you get the idea that anything can be moved around. I can bring up the sides of her smile to make it look like she was smiling just a little bit more.
Yep. We're getting an idea of what is basically people end up looking nothing like they really look.
Yeah.
And that's seen as a positive thing?
In the industry, it is the norm. I think if you've seen when they have done specials without makeup, it looks like a bit amateurish. Like it's almost hard to. It's hard to give a paying client something which doesn't look finished.
Yeah.
So it's a real difficult thing we have to deal with.
It's just important for girls, for everyone really, to understand that, you know, when they're looking through the magazines, when they're looking at any advertisement, this is what they're looking at. It's not.
They're not looking at real people.
It's not a real person, and it's designed to make you feel bad about yourself.
So you buy their product.
So that you buy the product.
That's a dangerous road to tread,
so
isn't it? Really?
I see it as a first step for a lot of girls to really start liking themselves, is to realize what it is that, you know, what's causing this mindset that they have.
So, Jackie, tell me, how does your sense of spirituality interact with all this? I mean, I guess there are some Christians historically who have said, you know, the body is evil and the spirit is good and beauty is dangerous, you know, a very sort of puritanical sort of attitude. You're interested in photography, you're interested in beauty, including human beauty. So how do you make sense of all this from a Christian point of view?
Well, when we go and talk to the girls, I find myself wanting to say to them, like, I want to say, God loves you, like He values you, your values in God, and you know, you are so beautiful to Him, but like when...
Well, they're so beautiful to a lot of us, aren't they,
well,
really?
And
not just God.
But we all have insecurities we deal with, and myself as well. So it's like, I want to level with them, and we only have a short time with them, so it's hard to know what to say exactly other than to show this to them and, you know, just try to remind them that they are loved and valued, and to try and to find that value in God and not in their appearance, and not striving for something that's completely unattainable.
And there are some models as well that do bring an element of reality to it in a refreshing way. Samantha Harris is an Australian Aboriginal model we photographed for the Recognise campaign. And I've taken a look at her Instagram feed, and she often will post pictures of her that, like, you probably wouldn't see in the magazines, to say this is who I am. Like the
real me.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to see that, and her honesty and her candid nature there is, I think, really healthy for girls.
Now, Heath, you were saying before that you have some friends who are teachers who are, I guess, you know, dealing with the young ladies, you know, the young women students in their school, that they're having a lot of struggles. What's going on there?
Well, all of the friends that I have that are teachers that are involved with... Well, they're friends with the students, and they spend a lot of time with them. So the students trust them enough to confide in them the things that go on the darkest areas of their lives. And more now than ever, there's self-harming, there's all kinds of eating disorders.
Yeah.
They're really struggling now, and it's something that's, I believe maybe the whole social media generation's feeding into this, and there's a lot of cyberbullying going on.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon of the selfie, for example.
The selfie, and it's always from the perfect angle. So there is more pressure on these girls than ever before, and I think it's really important for these girls to know that they are not even 1%. They're like maybe 30% now. It's getting so common, it's scary.
How do you mean 1%?
Well, maybe 30 years ago, the people who were involved in
having these sort of issues
listed,
and problems,
yeah, they would have been quite rare in comparison to how it is now. So people who have these things needn't feel that they're just the only one.
You want girls to understand that, you know, what is most important is being healthy. And, you know, we've interacted with the catwalk models, and in my opinion, a lot of them don't seem healthy, and sometimes
when you meet them in person,
seem very unhappy. And that's what we're striving for, is to be an individual that's maybe not a very healthy individual.
If that fashion, catwalk, sort of modelling industry is so negative, why do you continue to participate in it?
The thing that often bounces around in my mind is the be in the world but not of the world.
Yeah.
I believe that you can bring light, and there is a lot of lovely people in that industry, and there are magazines and things, which I did mention to you off camera, that are very wholesome, and
they're committed to showing real people. And
and even talking about these models, they're not all bulimic. Like some of them, albeit maybe a tiny percentage, like a very tiny percentage of the entire society, have bodies that are shaped this way. And
they're just naturally lean.
Yeah, they're naturally lean. But it's important to note that on camera, it seems they look different from how they look in reality. You walk in, you think, wow, this girl looks very unusual. It's even cartoonists, when they draw superheroes, they make it so they're like 10 heads tall rather than the ordinary 6 or 7 heads tall. It's this look, and that's something that it goes as far back as cartoons and things like that, and that's why we feel the need to have these very, like, it's genetically very rare, but yet we see this as something to strive to, which is it's very difficult.
Well, that's something to think about. Hey, well, thanks so much for your time, guys. I really appreciate those insights, and you know, that little sort of taste of reality to peek behind the curtain of the, the glamorous, fashion and model industry. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Boy, it's not all glitz and glamour, is it?
No, not really. No.
And I really do feel for those girls who can't stop feeling like they'll never measure up.
Yeah, just no matter what. It kind of, reminds me of that Bible verse. I think it's really important with this issue, that says, people look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. I think that's a great perspective, to bring to play with this issue.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not that we shouldn't make an effort with our appearance, but it's all a matter of priorities.
Oh.
At least that's what I think.
Oh, look, me too. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on the couch this week. We'll see you next time on InFocus Recouched.
God bless.